So yeah, I mean, very simply, we wanted to talk about, what has happened, obviously, life and business in the new normal, and we can talk about digital transformation, and we will. And the question that I've been asking myself, and question I've been asking everyone around me, is how did the virus infect you, right? I mean, not necessarily actually physically getting the infection, but I mean, it's affected different people differently. So if you look at a very quick timeline as to what's transpired in the last few decades. If you see, I think Microsoft was incorporated somewhere around 1975, if I'm not wrong. So you look at 1980s and 90s, all the way up to the year 2000 and the dot-com bubble. Large companies starting to invest in technology between the year 2000 and 2010. Large companies start allocating considerable amounts of budgets on technology, and SMEs just sort of begin their journey of investing in technology, just tentatively taking the first few steps. We get, the large companies then realizing the concept of disrupt or be disrupted. And I remember, attending multiple seminars between 2008 and 2012 or 13, where people were talking about how digital percentage of ad spend will sort of overtake some of the more traditional media, which was radio back then, and people were like, oh, that's not going to happen. And here we are today, right? So where apps are buying media companies, like there was no tomorrow. So SMEs also, obviously, over the last 10 odd years, started adopting new technology. Whether they got a new CRM system, whether they got like an accounting software and things like that, and things were moving along quite well, right, until 2020. And now the only difference that I see is everyone needs to be a technology company. I was just speaking to one of the global authorities in sort of technology, what somebody called a futurist, a technology futurist, and he was saying that whether it's a bank or whether it's a healthcare company, now there is no way that they are not really looking at possibilities of turning themselves into a technology company. So, I mean, all this is happening in our lives, and it's happened so suddenly. Like Sarah mentioned, that it's accelerated adoption of digital technologies, and now, obviously, I don't want to talk to you about what's obvious. We all know that. Now, what do we do about it, right? So, obviously, necessity is the mother of all invention. You can see that all of us, look at us. If this event was happening 10 months back, we would be face to face, but here we are. We are doing what we need to do. So businesses have adapted, as have individuals. What are some of the things that businesses have done over the last few months, right? So you suddenly have virtual property viewings. One of the first reaction that people had was property market is going to crash. But the fact is, property markets globally have probably seen either some sort of stability or some sort of growth this year, surprisingly. Obviously, there are other sort of macroeconomic factors involved. But the fact is, things like, oh, let me do a virtual property viewing on Zoom, and people are buying properties across the globe. Obviously, virtual events and conferences, something that we couldn't imagine. Okay, conferences, yes, we've been doing video conferences for the longest time. But suddenly we had clients and we had people speaking to us where they are doing cross-country conferences with 200 people, 500 people. There are daily events happening and things that people thought, were probably the exception, not really the norm. We have entertainment, in the sense there are stand-up comedians who were actually out of a job, and suddenly they are doing YouTube online Zoom specials, and these are paid events, and people are happy to pay, and people are sitting in their living room, and suddenly, instead of watching TV or Netflix, they are paying $10 or $20 and watching a stand-up comedian perform. Unusual things, but things are happening. Virtual doctors, if you look at companies like Teladoc, right? Or if you have, some of the Chinese companies, they are doing so well because suddenly here we are, people are doing virtual consultation, there's virtual diagnosis, and people don't feel the need to go to doctors anymore, So suddenly everything's turning on its head. And of course, we have virtual reality travel. The one thing that we thought, would never be replaced by anything virtual is now being replaced. And there are enough companies out there, enough hotels out there who are doing virtual reality travel. So, here we are. Now the question is, how do we be a part of all this, right? All these businesses are doing this, and especially since most people here are, at the cusp of starting their careers and, are thinking about whether I should be an entrepreneur, whether I should take up a job. So I'll spend the next 5 to 10 minutes just talking about some of the things that come to me. None of the things that I'm talking about are rocket science. You already know most of these things. But the fact is what I can do is try and reinforce. So what can I do, right? There are, people talk about a very gloomy scenario in terms of there are not enough jobs. Yes, of course, a lot of jobs have been affected, whether you're in hospitality, whether you're in travel. There are jobs, that have been, lost. But then there are so many new jobs being created. And of course, the three of us, we were chatting yesterday and we were talking about how not a lot of jobs can be filled right now because there's not enough talent to fill those jobs. So what can we do? I mean, either we start a business. No, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's not that difficult thing to do. A lot of you, keep sending me LinkedIn messages, and we chat over LinkedIn, and some of you have some ideas, and of course, a lot of you are, considering e-commerce. I would say there are a lot of possibilities, right? Obviously, some of the other sectors are not as well advertised. Not enough guys walking from their Ferraris to their private jets talking about how drop shipping changed their life. But there are a lot of other opportunities too. So, but how do you identify these opportunities? So the one thing that I would say is, I remember from my early 20s, I met this billionaire and we spoke about, I have a lot of ideas. I want to do this, I want to do that. And he just told me, young man, you have a lot of ideas, but the real secret is execution. And the real secret is picking which kind of business you should go after. And I said, how do I pick that? Because I wanted to build an e-commerce store, and I had built an e-commerce store which was doing okay. Then suddenly I had published an iPhone app. So I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be everywhere, but somehow, with all those things, I didn't have any focus. So he told me something that stayed with me and something that I would like to share, is the fact that it does not matter, what, what you think you're good at. There are a lot of things that we need to sort of consider. And he spoke about multiple filters, right? And then, of course, a lot of us are talking about timing, right? What is the right time? What is the right time? Is this, pandemic? Oh, I've lost my career. I won't get a job. I wanted to start a business, but right now I don't have a good, sort of ecosystem to start a business. I don't have the right support. Well, I mean, the four companies, the four logos that you see on your screen are all companies that were started in a recession. And there are so many more, right? Companies like MailChimp and Uber and, so many other companies that were started in a recession, and they did exceedingly well. So I would just say that, let's not sort of hold back and do what we need to do. And coming to, filtering what, ideas we should go after, let's talk about the four filters. So very simple. The first question you ask yourself is, are you passionate about it, right? I mean, and I just realized, I mean, as I've seen my life in the last 20 odd years, that I started most of my businesses thinking about, am I passionate about it? And if I was passionate about it, I would just go all out and do it. And then somewhere I would get stuck, or it's not doing that well, because I forgot to ask myself the second question, or the second filter, which is, am I good at it? And the question is, sometimes we're not good at it, right? So if I want to be a painter, but I draw like a 6-year-old, there's no point me trying to do that, right? But I can find different ways of being involved with the art business. So the second question, if your business idea goes through the second filter as well, which is, are you good at it? Then you ask yourself, is it scalable? Right. And I realized for most of my late 20s, the businesses that I was working on were not scalable, because they would go hit a glass ceiling. They would not go beyond a certain revenue because, the model was such. And then finally, again, a challenge that I still haven't been able to overcome is, can you institutionalize it? And when I say institutionalize it, is how much of your business is about you. So if you're a consultant, or if you're a doctor, if you're a dentist, if you start a practice, the day you take 10 days off, you're making absolutely no money. So can you institutionalize it in a way, like for instance, Bill Gates retired so many years back, I can't even remember, must be 15 years now or maybe more. And he is still one of the richest men in the world, because he was able to build a business, which was truly institutionalized and people can run it. And he's still a shareholder. So ask yourself these questions. And if you feel that you have an idea and it goes through all these filters, then don't hesitate and go for it, right? The second option is get a job. Very simple, right? And the reason I say that is because I've spoken to so many students in the last 2.5 months, and they just seem so lost. They don't know. They just say, oh, I've applied for jobs. I don't know what's going on. So, there's a lot to choose from. And I'm just talking about technology. I'm not saying that every sector is doomed and technology is the only sector that's booming. No, that's not true. There are so many sectors. There are sort of new jobs being created every day as, the economy changes. And, like Sarah mentioned, that we have to adapt. And so let's adapt. I mean, if you look at all these jobs, and these are 36 job titles, these are just possibly some jobs, in a technology company or in a technology role in any company. So just see what you have the skills for. Now you say, I'm not a software engineer. That's okay. You can be a project manager. You say, I can't be a project manager. Well, the world is short of content marketing specialists. The world is short of SEO specialists, right? So we are looking for SEO specialists all the time. We can't find them. Uh, you can be a creative copywriter, you can be a technical copywriter. There are so many things that we can do, like there are so many tools at our disposals. So I mean, just go out there and just pick up any of these jobs. And now the question is, I've applied already, but I haven't had any success. The fact is, I mean, firstly, don't give up. It doesn't matter. All you need is one success. It doesn't matter whether you have failed 20 times. But the fact is, there is something you can do, to change that. Now, this is something that I came across and I found it very sort of inspiring, and I wasn't having a particularly good day. And then I just asked myself, am I doing the exact same thing? Something on the lines of what Einstein said. So the most dangerous phrase in our language is, we've always done it this way. And I actually met a friend a few weeks back, and he used to be my client at one of the companies, and one of the top Singapore companies. And he lost his job about 5 months back, and he's not been able to get a job back. And something that I shared with him is something that I'll sort of share with you, is we look at the problem the same way, we sort of respond to the problem the same way, and that's why we get the same result. So some of the things that I have shared with some of you who attended some of my programs of late, and some of you have done it as well, and it's worked out quite well. So why build a resume when you can build a website, right? It just shows an employer that you're absolutely different. If there are 150 applicants and suddenly you have even if it's a one-pager website. I've seen people who I've seen that they have a website, they don't have a resume, and I've hired them just because they took the initiative. Why do you wait for an offer letter? Why don't you make an offer? Again, I was speaking to this friend of mine, and he said, well, I've gone through the first round of interview, the second round of interview, the third round of interview. Then the question comes, oh, but what is your expected salary? Then I say, well, my expected salary is this. And then, no, never hear back from them. So the fact is, early in the conversation, just focus on, what you can offer the company and make them an offer, right? I mean, and I have, maybe to some of you, I've told the ridiculous stories of how I landed my first couple of jobs, and that's exactly what I did. Now, do we want to be window shopping, or do we want a foot in the door? That's another thing, right? Like I've seen, and I'm sure both Chungpin, and Gerald and Sarhan, you will have your own sort of stories and incidents to narrate about this, is the fact that, when we try to hire a lot of, fresh grads, we just feel that they are not really serious about it, because one of the first things that they say is, oh, we are also interviewing for so many other companies. So the fact is, you just identify the companies that you want to work with, go in, and once you have the opportunity, just go for it, and a foot in the door strategy, something that, we've learned to sort of believe in, is the fact that, once you're inside an organization, you can always change your roles. If you are committed, if you're devoted, if you're working hard, if you're willing to learn continuously, you get into a sales role, you can move to a marketing role. From a marketing role, you can get into another role, operations role, digital role, consulting role. But I've seen a lot of students are just waiting for that perfect job, which is not really ideal. I was speaking to, one of the coordinators at one of the top universities. And again, she told me the same thing. A lot of students are not taking up traineeships because they feel that, it's not enough money. And I just feel that, the companies are paying you. At the same time, you get a chance to learn. And when you do that, you are just possibly creating a career for yourself. So this kind of support is not possible in any other country, hardly any country. So make full use of it. And of course, the fourth thing being employment benefits or a fulfilling career, right? Sometimes you go to the right company, we feel it's the right, sort of work environment. We feel the culture is something that is aligned to what we want. And then we get stuck as applicants because we start asking about, what the benefits are and how many days of leave and everything, because it doesn't even matter. Because in the first few months, you're hardly ever going to take any days off. And if the company is not good, you can always leave that company. But the fact is, so many of us sabotage our own interviews by just asking a lot of those questions as if, we have not gone for a job interview, but we've gone to a restaurant and we ask them what's on their menu and what can we order, right? So, and finally, again, what I very strongly believe, full-time job is better than a part-time job, which is better than a traineeship, better than internship, and all of them are better than waiting for that perfect job, because there is no such thing. I can tell you that, whether you're 20 or you're 40, you're still going to be questioning, what you really want to do with your life. So don't think so much. Don't philosophize. Just go in there, and if you don't like it, you can always change. And I always tell people, don't wait for, I don't know who said that rule that you have to have 1 year experience at a company or it reflects badly on you. Well, maybe it does, but nothing's better than, nothing's worse than actually suffering at a job. If you don't like it, quit, but at least, keep moving, So this is something that I wrote to my team last week. And because I had been hearing a lot from my team about the fact that, there is Zoom fatigue, there is burnout, people were complaining. And obviously, we were having this chat yesterday evening as well about the fact that ever since we've started working on Zoom and everyone's sitting at home, you don't have the peer support. So everyone feels a bit lost. So, I mean, I just simply told them, we can look back at this year as the year, that we sort of lost our sanity, lost our, opportunities, lost, possibilities for career growth, or we can look at this year as the time we overcame our mental blocks, limitations, and negativity, and we absolutely transformed our careers. And I know people who are doing this. And I've seen that in my own organizations, and I've seen how the only difference between two people is how much they want it and how resilient they are. And it's not even about skill. So, I mean, that's, what I can sort of share with you. And, again, if you have any questions, if you would like to sort of discuss anything, if you have any specific ideas, I'm very excited to find out, what the ambassadors are going to be up to. And, I hope that some of them are projects that I can get involved with. And even if not in this program, and if you want to, want me to support any of your, projects, I'm more than happy to do that. So thanks so much.